Scores of persons gathered outside of the Georgetown Magistrates Court singing and chanting for claimant Mingo to be released. Mingo and two other GCOM staff were arraigned in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan to answer fraud charges related to the March 2nd general and regional elections. Mingo was slapped with 4 charges. Mingo was being charged for intentionally misconducting himself in public office by failing to disclose the numbers that were counted in accordance with the parties on the list. Outside of the courtroom, former President David Granger and several senior members of the APNU-AFC coalition gathered to give support to Mingo and other GCOM staff. Mingo's wife was very emotional following her husband's release.
That, we just want to show solidarity with you and your family, and we know that he's not done anything wrong, and this is persecution and provocation. So please accept, our support, and we tend to stay with this case until it comes to a conclusion.
Jehovah Jireh! Jehovah Jireh! You are the same God of yesterday, today, and will be forever. Weeping may endure for a night. Oh, but joy will come in the morning. Thank you, Jesus. You have brought us thus far by faith, and we are going to hold on to your everlasting hand. Thank you, Jesus.
Mingo was represented by a battery of lawyers, one of whom is Attorney at Law Nigel Hughes, and he said the charges were indictable. Mingo was placed on $150,000 bail on each of the charge.
State, represented by Mr. Tariq Mohammed, asked that he be remanded to custody. They objected to bail. The first reason they gave for their objection to bail was the fact that Prime Minister Golding, who headed the OAS team, made comments about the election. The next basis upon which they objected to him being allowed his pre-trial liberty was that the gravity of the offense was such that he should be remanded. Upon inquiry from the magistrate whether their investigation had been completed, they said that they had not completed their investigation and they still had 21 more witnesses to interview. We insisted in our application for bail, and Mr. Mingo was granted bail in the sum of $150,000 on each charge, which accumulated to $600,000 bail.
Mingo will return to court on September 25th. Hughes said there was no apparent reason as to why Mingo was detained from last Tuesday to today.
Because he provided them with no statement, and they said that they thought that there is the possibility that he might interfere with a witness. The magistrate inquired correctly of them, where is the evidence of this? And they had to concede that they had no evidence of any indication that he would interfere with the investigation. One of the conditions of his release is he had to lodge his passport, and he has to report to Mr. Caesar, who is the head of CID at Ivleri, every Friday.
Attorneys at law Latoya Roberts and UC Anderson represented Enrique Livan and Suffer in February. February was charged with 2 counts of attempting to defraud the people of Guyana, while Livan was charged with manipulating the numbers of the SOPs.
In her position as a clerk, she would have read the wrong numbers from the SOPs during the March 2020 elections. The charges are exactly the same, only thing they separated it for the regional and for the general elections. While Mr. Livan was charged with manipulating the numbers of the SOPs that were recorded in the system so that they reflected fraudulent numbers for District 4, and therefore it resulted in a fraudulent result being recorded for the said district. Both individuals, they were not required to plead this morning because the charges were laid indictably. However, they're here with us because they were both granted bail, and I believe
Mr. Mohammed's objections were overruled by the learned magistrate. she felt that they were insufficient to establish reasons not to grant bail. She granted bail to Miss February in the sum of $300,000, $150,000 on each charge. She granted bail to Mr. Livan in the sum of $150,000 for the single charge that he's before the court. Mr. Tariq Mohammed objected to bail on the grounds that my clients, Mr. Livan and Miss February, are likely to interfere with witnesses having regard to the fact that they work at GCOM. Mr. Mohammed also objected to bail on the basis that such an offense is grave and serious. Mr. Tariq Mohammed, my learned friend of course and counsel, objected to bail citing a report made by former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mr. Bruce Golding, that Mr. Bruce Golding has never seen such a transparent attempt at rigging an election. Those were, in summary, the gist of the objections raised by Mr. Tariq Mohammed. We repeated the statements we have made in the press with respect to the breaches of the constitutional rights to have attorney present and to participate in interviews, having an attorney there if you so request. The magistrate believed that the evidence and the allegations made by Mr. Tariq Mohammed were inadequate and insubstantial to refuse to grant my client's bail. One wants to go to sleep, and I can tell you that Miss February is extremely relieved and she wants to go to sleep. Both of these persons have had their constitutional rights breached significantly. Both of these persons have been incarcerated beyond the constitutionally permissible period of 72 hours. We also have some other clients who are in that similar position.
Trio will make their next court appearance on September 25th.